As rocket engineers, we need a way to determine how much fuel we need in order to reach the destinations that we're going in space. Imagine you were going on a camping trip and you knew there weren't any petrol stations around where you were going. You'd probably want to calculate how much fuel you have in your car and how much range you have to make sure that you don't get stuck in the middle of nowhere. As space engineers, we face the same problem. We want to make sure that we plan and have enough fuel aboard our spacecraft so that they can get to their destinations and back. Because after all, there are no petrol stations in space. In space, the main variable that determines where you can go is your velocity. The faster you're going, the further you can go. The maximum speed that a rocket can reach from a standing start is called its delta velocity, or delta V. There are two variables that can influence how much delta V your rocket will have. The first one is how much fuel you put into the rocket. Obviously, the more fuel you have, the further you can go and the faster you can go. The second variable is what's called specific impulse. And this essentially is measuring the efficiency of your rocket. How well does it use that fuel you have on board in order to provide thrust to the rocket? In the analogy of your camping trip, you would probably just take the amount of fuel that you have in your car and multiply that by the mileage that your car gets. And that would essentially tell you what the range of your vehicle is. Well, we do a similar type of calculation with our rocket to get our delta V, except it doesn't quite work the same way. Because rockets are mostly composed of fuel, we need to also consider that the vehicle is getting significantly lighter as the rocket is propelling itself. This means that as we add more fuel to our vehicle, we have to actually bring extra fuel in order to accelerate the fuel that we're bringing, and essentially we end up getting this exponential loop. Because of this, there's an extra exponential variable that we have to put into the equation in order to determine what our delta velocity will be. This means that bringing more fuel does not necessarily mean that you get a linear relationship in terms of the amount of delta V that you get. So 2 times more fuel doesn't give you 2 times more speed. This makes it very different from the analogy where you would just be going on a camping trip, because usually if you put twice as much fuel into your car, you get twice as much range. Thus, to calculate delta V, all we have to do is multiply the efficiency of a rocket engine by the natural logarithm of the ratio between the initial mass and the final mass of the rocket. Since it's the New Year season, let's do a quick example of this delta V equation with a simple firework. If we imagine a little firework that weighs only 1 kilogram, let's try and figure out what the maximum velocity that this firework can reach based on what we know. Most fireworks are powered by black powder, and this typically has a specific impulse of about 80 seconds. So that would be the specific impulse part of the equation. We also need to consider the change in mass that the firework experiences. And for a 1 kilogram firework, usually it'll lose about half its mass. So in the end, after it's all burnt up, it'll be about 500 grams. So that means that we'll put for our initial mass 1 kilogram, and for our final mass 500 grams. So if we put all of these values into our rocket equation, we end up getting about 55 meters per second for the velocity that the firework can achieve. When we consider that the firework is launching from the Earth, that gives us about 5 or 6 seconds of flight time before you'll reach apogee and see the big firework explosion. That makes practical sense for what we actually experience at a fireworks display. And there you have it. That's the rocket equation. When you're doing your New Year's celebrations, make sure to think about the rocket science that's involved. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and share it with your friends for your New Year celebration. And remember to expand your horizons.